Hi, everybody. Welcome to our masterclass guided meditation today. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you're at in the world. And so, I would love to hear from you if you're here with me to share in the chat box where you are and just give me like a hi. Let me know how you're doing today. That would be amazing. And there may be some of you who were not able to join the live session on Tuesday for our masterclass. And so, just by way of introduction, my name is Stephanie Wagner, and I'm a trainer and program specialist for Healthy Minds Innovations. I'm also a board certified health coach, and I'm the co teacher for our masterclass along with Cortland Dahl. And our intention with these Friday sessions is to provide some additional support outside of the app and outside of the masterclass sessions so that you have an opportunity to practice. And what I think we're going to do, so Court and I are going to be alternating every other Friday, is that we will guide you through a practice that's rooted in the skill that we have focused on for the week. And as we go forward, you'll get more and more experience and more familiarity with these skills and really deepen your experience with these practices. So my hope today is that you feel supported in your practice, coming together as a community. I can see your chats here. It's so wonderful to see you all here. Thank you so much for telling me you're here. It looks like we've mainly got US people representing right now. But today we are going to focus on the getting started practice that you learned in the introduction to meditation section of the getting started part of the app. So we're going to this morning, or right now, we're going to review posture. We're going to review directing your mind and sort of where to place your attention. And then we'll talk a little bit about working with different supports for practice. So we'll work today with our breath as well as sound. So wonderful to see everybody here. Thank you so much. So just as a review, there were essentially two different types of practice that you're introduced to in the app. And so you may or may not have gotten an opportunity to get there yet. So there's a seated practice, which we're going to do right now, but then there are also active practices in which you're able to work with a guided practice in the app while you're doing some sort of light activity like housework, walking, if you're in Minnesota with me, shoveling perhaps. And so lots of great opportunities to be able to work with training our mind in these skills. So Dr. Davidson on Tuesday introduced us to the foundation of the Healthy Minds program, which is basically that well-being is a skill that can be trained, it can be learned. And the reason for this is neuroplasticity, so the capacity for our brain to be able to change. And what we're doing as we're training our mind in these practices is we're harnessing the capacity for our brains to change, but we're doing it with intention. And so we're cultivating and training our mind in these positive qualities that already exist within us. And so then Court introduced us to the Healthy Minds model of well-being, which is rooted in 4 different dimensions of well-being: awareness, connection, insight, and purpose. And each of these dimensions of well-being contains a set of skills that are both trainable, as well as their science that links them to being beneficial to well-being. So looking forward to diving more deeply into the dimension of awareness and the skill of mindfulness with you next Tuesday. But for today, let's just go ahead and do a guided practice on breath and sound to review what you learned perhaps in the app if you've done that portion of the app already. So let's go ahead and find a comfortable posture. And so this just means that you want to find something that feels alert, awake, as well as relaxed as you can be in this moment. This might mean that you're laying down. I'm sitting on a meditation cushion. You might be in your chair. So wherever you are, see if you can find yourself in a position that feels balanced. Might mean uncrossing your legs or placing your hands on your thighs. And you can close your eyes if that feels best for you, or if you decide to keep them open, a gentle gaze in front of you, not focused on anything in particular. And so, usually, when we practice, we ground ourselves just by taking a few slow, deep breaths. So, you can take a moment to do that now. And so, a way to stay motivated and inspired in our practice is to, at the very beginning, when we begin practicing, to take a moment to reflect on the reason why you have decided to do this. So, why are you training your mind in this way? What is your greater motivation? And so, you'll usually hear some kind of instruction like this when we guide practice. So take a moment to silently in your mind reflect on why you are training your mind in this way. And so then let's bring our awareness to our body. So, what this means is simply noticing how you're feeling right now in this moment. You can notice any sensations in your body. You can notice the feeling of your hands, perhaps in your lap. There are feelings of warmth or coolness, maybe a subtle tingling in the palms of your hand. And so see if you can notice that, whatever the sensations might be in the palms of your hands. And now notice the feeling of what it feels like to be supported wherever you're sitting, whether it's in a chair, on a cushion, or even lying down. Notice the feeling of your body being supported. And now bring your awareness to your feet. And once again, simply notice any sensations in your feet and the soles of your feet. We're not doing anything different than simply tuning in to the sensations in the body with awareness. So maybe you notice that your feet have, once again, some kind of sensation in the soles of the feet, feeling of the feet being on the floor. Simply allowing the sensations to be known. And so now bring your attention to the feeling of the breath in your body, knowing that your body is breathing. You might notice the feeling of the air moving in and out of your nose, or the belly rising and falling with the breath. You can pay attention to the breath wherever you feel it the most strongly in your body. See if you can allow the breath to be natural, not changing it or manipulating it in any way. Being present with the breath, being aware of the breath, just as it is naturally. And see if you can notice those moments where your mind is no longer connected with the breath, no longer aware of the breath. And each time that happens, redirect your mind back to the breath. So, this process of getting lost and coming back and getting lost and coming back is going to be the practice. Recognizing distraction, bringing your attention back to the breath. And you may notice thoughts come and go through your mind, and sometimes you'll get lost in those thoughts, and sometimes you'll just see them as they're sort of occurring while you're paying attention to the breath. So, as long as you're connected in this moment to awareness and you sort of know that you're breathing, you know the thoughts, it's not a problem. Thoughts can come, thoughts can go, as long as you're connected to awareness, this capacity for us to know what's going on in our experience. So let's let go of the breath for a moment and allow the mind to rest in this state of just being present right here, right now, not focused on anything in particular. You might notice if there's something that has crept up in your mind or in your body. No need to focus on anything in particular. Okay, so we're going to pause for a moment here, and I'd like to hear from you in the chat. If you could just tell me maybe what you noticed during your practice, and anything is welcome. Maybe you noticed that, your body's tense. Maybe you noticed that your mind is active, that you were distracted, calm, whatever it is. I want to invite you to share that in the chat box. And the reason why I'm pointing to this is it can be really helpful, first of all, to just know what's going on in our practice and to be aware of that, but then also to normalize that practice can be very up and down. There may be times where your mind is very calm and it's very peaceful, it feels really good, and that's awesome. And there will be times when your mind is very active. You might feel very prone to distraction, have a lot of thoughts, and that's good too. Both are good. And I think it can be easy to have the expectation that we want our practice to be calm and thought free, and letting go of expectations during practice is an important part of this process. The ups and downs of practice are very, very normal. It's kind of like, when we go to the gym or when we work out, we may have workouts that just feel like energized and amazing in the body. And then there will be practices, or there will be times where we're exercising where it is very hard and we feel sluggish and we feel tired. And so similarly here, practice can be challenging. So I don't see any comments here. That's okay. So let's go ahead and try another round. Oh, now I'm seeing them come in. Okay, great. This is great. Thank you, Vitsa. I see. Notice that your posture started slumping, head tilting downward. Okay, great. All right. Being in a comfortable position, laying down was helpful today. Thank you, Eve. Yeah, listening to the body can be a really important part of this process. All right, Dorothy, I'm sleepy and drift off. Yep, it's okay. We'll talk about sleepiness at some point during our masterclass. Um, Good to notice that. Mine was very distracted. Okay, thank you. Catch your mind. So Amrit says, I would catch my mind getting caught up in the various strands and plans. Great. I'm glad my voice helped bring you back. Wonderful. Mind was distracted, like the concept of focusing on my palms. Okay, great. One more thing to just add here before we move on to briefly working with sound is that sometimes breath does not feel great for people. Sometimes, if you are maybe prone to anxiety or you're having more of a stressful day, you may find that the breath maybe causes you to feel a little bit more anxious. So don't worry if that is your experience. I want to encourage you to work with a different anchor, a different support. Okay. So in this intro to sitting practice in the app, we work with breath and we work with sound. So the great thing is that throughout this masterclass, you're going to be introduced to so many different types of practice that are going to be a part of your toolbox, that in those moments where maybe something just does not feel workable in your practice, like working with the breath does not feel workable, then you can actually work with a different practice, which is why in this moment we're going to start working with sound just for a couple of minutes. So let's go ahead and get ourselves resituated into our practice, sitting practice posture, balanced, relaxed, and alert. Once again, closing your eyes if that feels right for you today. Once again, a couple of deep breaths here. And so now See if you can open yourself up to the sounds in the environment. Notice whatever sounds you're hearing in this moment. Might be the sound of my voice, environmental sounds, perhaps outside of wherever you're practicing, cars going by, airplanes, ventilation system in your home. So see if you can simply notice whatever sounds are arising in your environment. And if there are no sounds, simply be with no sound, be with silence. See if you can notice those moments where again your mind is lost in thought, no longer with the sound, and simply bring your attention back to being with the sound, noticing the sound. Here, there's no need to fixate on any one single sound. You can open yourself up to being with whatever sounds are in the environment. Really, what we're doing here is we're simply knowing that we're hearing. Where's your mind in this moment? Is it with the sound or not? And if you're not with the sound, see if you can redirect your attention to listening to the sound with awareness, simply knowing that we're hearing and listening. So you'll notice really that the practice is the same basic technique as working with the breath, but instead we're listening to sound. We're knowing that we're hearing. All right, let's let go of the sound. Notice what's happening in your body and mind after doing this practice. Okay, you can open your eyes. All right, let's hear it. How was it for you? Curious what you may have noticed between the two practices. Maybe you had one technique preference, which is completely natural. Maybe you preferred the breath, maybe you preferred sound. So, would love to hear from you. Maybe if there was a distinct difference between your two, working with those two different anchors or supports. So, for me, I can just speak from my own practice. When I initially started meditating, I learned exclusively to work with the breath. And I had a really, really, really hard time working with the breath. I came to meditation because I was very anxious, and working with the breath with the amount of anxiety that I had only exacerbated my anxiety, at least initially. And it didn't feel workable to me. But I also have my original training, professionally when I was young was as a classically trained musician. I'm a classically trained flutist and spent my 20s doing that. And so sound was a much more natural support for me. And so to be able to be with sound, know sound, notice sound was just kind of a part of my DNA and really a part of my professional training. It took me a while to be able to get to the point where I was able to work with breath in my practice without being activated. So the sort of the practice tip here is, and I'm just going to reiterate something that I've already said. If something in your practice, like you're working with a technique that does not feel good to you, and when I mean good, I mean not workable, like it just is, it's activating you, you feel anxious, you feel stressed out, it's too tough. Don't slog through, please. Change what you're working with. So here we learned breath, we learned sound, so you can redirect what you're working with. And this is something that you can continue to work with as you're learning more and more techniques as we go along in the master class. So looks like we've got all right. So some preference to sound, which is great, wonderful. Either breath or sound is wonderful. The thing that I really appreciate about sound meditation is that it can transform even things in our environment that we would normally think are annoying or irritating, like those sounds like sirens or like the jackhammer outside of your house. If they're doing construction, it can even turn those sounds as just an opportunity to sort of train your mind. And it really it just shifts your relationship with what's going on. So remember what we're doing here, and we talked about this during our masterclass, is that we cannot control what's going on outside of us. But what we can do is we can change our relationship with what's going on. We can change our relationship and our mind to the external circumstances. So we're going to continue down the path of working with these practices. Let's see, Emrit said it was easier to stay with breath and sound, mostly work with breath before. Okay. Both feel workable. Great. Yeah, it feels like a muscle that needs some work. Thank you. Eve said more challenging with sound. Merle said the sound put you in a more relaxed state, kind of felt like you were in a zone. Okay, great. Whatever's happening in your practice, whether it's positive or not, is all good. It's all practice, which is what we're doing here, right? We're training these mental muscles to connect with these these capacities, these things that already exist within us. So nicely done. We're at the end of our session today. If you have any feedback about how you might want this to be better, different, we're just open to feedback throughout the course of this class. So you can always email me at stephanie@hminnovations.org, or you can post on the Facebook group, whatever feels the best for you. And of course, remember, if you're wanting some support in your practice, you can sign up for a practice interview. So essentially what that means is that it's just time for you and I to chat about what's going on in your practice with your habit formation. If you're having some kind of obstacle or just kind of want to like talk about what you're doing, happy to get on a Zoom with you for 15 minutes. So that was in the original email, how to sign up for that. So look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday, and I hope you have a wonderful Friday.